there you could find anything there. Like you could there was like a black market for music or something. Then you could exchange LPs. You can sell. You can buy them. And if you can't find something that you want to find, there would be this guy that would write it down, and he would say like, "Come here next week. I'll get this record for you,"
Nice.
and you would get it. So that was a very different way how we got how we found the music that we like.
Yeah, it's much different than how we did it in America. Making mixtapes is much different process.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
You
I can
can't even
imagine
bootlegging
that.
here took on a different form. It'd be
Yeah.
like, hooking up to your radio and then to your recorder. You'd be going into the woods and bootlegging that.
Well, maybe you can still experience that, with all the
Yeah,
censorship that we're
right.
talking about.
Sadly
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Hey, in this podcast, we're going to talk about suicide and suicide prevention. We're also going to talk about music, art, censorship, and who better to discuss that than my friend Andrius, who grew up in the Soviet Union. Their method of censoring was to throw white noise into the atmosphere and drown out all the airwaves. So, I'm going to introduce you to my friend Andrius.
Penkios, keturios, trys, dvi, vienas.
But really, how old were you when you started playing?
I know being interested in music probably since childhood. I was always at first I was probably more interested in sound as just as a sound. I would take a rope, tie it to some chair and then play with it, like no, 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 make sounds, and I was just interested in making sounds. So then later, when I was 10 years old, I went to music school to learn the guitar, and then I continued by myself. I studied the classical guitar for 1 year. So I just got just basics, and then I invented some chords by myself. Then realized that that's the same chords that everybody's playing. So I kind of learned music by just composing my songs, and then later when I was 18, I had to go to the Soviet army, and because my country was still in the Soviet Union, and everyone in that age, like when you turn 18, you had to go like serve for 2 years. So I was lucky enough to get into the army orchestra, and I played drums there,
Nice.
which was kind of like also very strange musical training. But still, I spent 2 years in an orchestra, and that also there was like a few more instruments. There was like a piano there. I wrote some songs on piano, so it was always I was always just taking one note and putting the other, and look, and if it sounds nice, then I would find a third note, and then it becomes a song. So it's just a process of writing my own songs.
When did you get to find the guys with for Foye?
We started the band at school. We wanted to be in a band since we were like 10 years old. My friend Arnold, we started this. We had this dream together that we're gonna make a band one day, and then around, I guess we were 16 when we kind of got a few musical instruments, some like a few like a Yugoslavian electric guitars and some Russian keyboard and some Latvian drums, just some drum set, and then we started to play as a band. A few other classmates joined us, and we started Foje.
So, so what were you like as a kid? I mean, you and Andrews or Arnold still making the same jokes as when you were kids today?
You are the same person,
Mm-hmm.
like to yourself. Like I always realize that I'm the same person like I was 5 years old, or now I'm 56. So I'm just the same person, of course, with a different experience
Yeah.
and a different with more uh, story, more things that happened to me or I've been through. But when I was a kid, I was always curious, and I always liked to make jokes, and I was a bit shy, uh, and this like going on stage and expressing yourself through music, it was kind of, maybe it's still to me, it's still the best way to express myself. It's stage probably is the place where you could be most free,
Mm.
if you let yourself be free. Then like in creating art is probably the most free form of life that human can have. Like being creative it's the biggest freedom that we have if we let ourselves to be free in our creative process. Other In other parts of life, there are always rules or boundaries, but in art, there are boundaries only if you set them for yourself.
Question for you, Andreas.
Yeah.
You talk about being freest when you're on stage, and I can really resonate with that because I consider myself an introvert, but when I get on stage, everybody that knows me from that part of my life thinks I'm an extrovert. So I wonder if that's the same for you. Do you
Yeah.
consider yourself an introvert except when you're on stage?
Uh, I'm there's this theory that no one is really 100% introvert or extrovert. We are like how's it called, ambivert. But
Mhm.
because with certain people you could be an extrovert, but with some other people you are introvert. But in general, yes, I like to spend my time. I like to be alone, and I'm during the COVID lockdown, I was so happy that I didn't have to go anywhere to meet anyone. I was so happy. I was going through my archives, making some recording music, or editing photographs and stuff like that. So, but yeah, but it's kind of when you go on the stage, there's this part of you that you cannot. There's no other place where you can let it out. It's kind of like, I know you can call it like a stage persona probably, but sometimes I talk to my friends and they when they say that when they come to my concert, they sometimes they have to pinch themselves to remind that we know each other. It's like
Yeah.
there's something when you're on stage, there's something different happens. There are some rules that people who are watching you, they kind of they accept the reality of the stage. They believe it. When you go like to concert or a theater performance, you kind of believe that what's happening on stage is that's it becomes real for that short period of time when there's something happen on stage. So it's to me it's always this magic that you kind of you go on stage and there is some different part of you.
Now, there was something you mentioned about that Palmer and Greg and I were talking about the other day. You brought up it was about something we called it or Palmer called it self censorship. How do you ignore that, or do you not? I mean, you wrote freely. You always write freely, otherwise you wouldn't be any good. But so do you understand what I'm saying? Do you self-censor at all?
Not if I self-censor myself, only because the reason is me. If I think that that's not maybe not expressing my thought, or maybe that's not appropriate, but not to other people, to me.
Mm-hmm.
But usually no, I wouldn't say. I have well, I have some lyrics that contain some maybe some expressions that could be shocking. Like there's a song that has the line "What I
Audio edit.
Yeah,
and
stuff like that. Stuff like that.
yeah, but I'm using that as an expression, as and of course there are people. Sometimes people might take literally, because when we're listening to the song, it's still we kind of reflect ourselves. It's not we understand the song, as because we're reflecting if the song makes you nervous, or song makes you happy, it just triggers something in you. It like all the art, it's usually it's a reflection. When you see like abstract painting, everyone in the room might see something different, and might understand it differently. Just the same it's with songs, or movies, or theater. It's I don't know. I'm not really. I'm more thinking, how do I express myself the way? Do I express myself enough? Do I express the idea for the song that I have? Do I express it clear enough in from my perspective? I'm happy that my father was kind of okay with that.
Yeah.
He's like, it's like, yeah.
And I think everybody from time to time is.
Audio edit.
No, that's
Yeah, I mean,
Or somebody around them.
mean,
I never
When
understood.
when you're
college.
like when you're a teenager.
he's just kidding. He's true.
I'm kidding, but this is to your point. People take stuff literally, right? And to your point, Jeff,
Yeah.
and like, oh my goodness, but that's all I was putting out there.
Can I expand on the question, Jeff? Do you mind?
I don't mind at all.
Okay, going back to self-censorship, I'd be interested to know, because I know Andrius is in Europe, Eastern Europe. So here in America, we're starting to come into a lot of things that Europe and South America, and there's this culture war going on here. And I think I myself, as an artist, not so much as a musician, but as an artist, I find myself doing a lot of self-censorship because of culture wars and political upheaval and division here in the States. It's like we're catching up, and you're somewhere where that's happened before. Do you find yourself censoring it? You said you only censor yourself for yourself. Have you ever done it for any other political and cultural reasons?
No, only, like I said, I always look for the way how to express what I feel or what I think. I think that's the only right way. The first 20 years of my life, I was, Lithuania was in Soviet Union, so I was kind of living in that system, the Soviet system, for the first 20 years of my life. So when we recorded our first songs, there was only way to get them on the radio. You had to bring the recording to the Ministry of Culture. They had like a special committee there, the people who would decide if your songs are good enough for the Soviet radio, and I didn't pass that. And
You didn't?
Or if the message was acceptable to the narrative, I would think.
No, I didn't. They say no. This is. So
they censored for you.
Yeah, they kind of they saw that there's maybe some secret or hidden messages, but then when the system changed, those songs became very, very popular. So it's I didn't have to censor myself, but you know, it's just this
Somebody else did it for you.
censoring yourself. It's just I don't know how. Maybe that's the wrong name to it. It's not that like I'm censoring or I'm not letting myself say something. I'm just looking for the best way to express what I want to say. That's I
No,
wouldn't
that's
call it
good. Yeah.
censoring.
No, that would be different. There's a lot. I think what Palmer was saying. There's a lot of comedians. They're kind of going on stage now saying, all this censorship is making my life really hard. I can't be funny if I'm afraid I'm going to offend this person,
Right.
this
Oh yeah.
person. So the comedians are really having a hard
100%.
time.
100%. I delve into a little bit of comedy, and it's terrifying. I mean, you're threatened with getting doxxed, and like that. What that essentially means is like, well, I didn't like what you said, so we're going to point out where you live, where your kids go to school, and we're going to protest against you. And it's very organized here in the United States, and it's not a good direction, in my opinion.
I think the culture war was kind of replaced with woke culture in the States, and that's something we're up against right now in the States. I think it's basically.
I would say, as opposed to censorship, I would just say, you know, I don't know about if this is your experience, but I tend to think more in terms of who am I singing for, or who am I performing for, or who am I doing this art for? I think of that. And then, so I guess I censor if you know, I want to try to fit the material to fit that audience. And I don't know if you call that censorship.
Yeah, I don't think that's censoring. It's like
there's so many things in that statement. There's because you've got individual taste, you got the intent of the artist. You don't have to take no. Yeah, I never think of my audience when I'm painting. I don't care about my audience. It's self-expression, right? I mean, sometimes I got to do it for money.
Sure.
And there's different ways that people create art. I don't like to self-censor, and I would create art just for myself. And if people like it, hey, that's great. But there's different realms of art too. Some people create for the people or whatever audience they're with too. But I'm more of the I create for myself, and be damned anybody. I don't care if people like it or not.
Guys, I don't think you've never been to a concert of Andrius's, but I just kind of want to show you. Let me see if I can do this. It's quite an experience. We've all been to shows, but there is something unique to Andrius's shows, and I can't really put my finger on it. Let me go ahead. Well, go ahead and talk a bit as I find this, because there's a particular.
I'm excited to finally see some live performances of his.
Well, yeah, I guess my question for Anders is this: does your I haven't heard you yet, so I don't know, but I'm just wondering if your style is like, are you trying to imitate American groups, or do you have a unique style that's unique to your Lithuanian culture, or are you trying to get away from that, or how are you coming at this?
No, I was a teenager in the 80s. So all like early 80s music is probably always be my guiding light, you know. It's just that kind of like new wave, post-punk,
American pop culture is what you're talking about?
Electro pop. Probably more based on European, on British, German music, popular music, I mean. And because back in the day, when I was a kid in Soviet Union, everything behind the Iron Curtain was, I don't know, West. We didn't in the beginning we didn't really distinguish, you know, British music, American music, German, French, well, maybe Italian because they sang in different language. So it's just it was all Western music, you know. But now I see that I probably most listens to British and German performers. And
let's play a song. We're overdue. Let's play a song. We can talk about it. All right, this is a concert he did in Chicago. I'm choosing this one because it's probably the best audio of his concerts, and I really like this song because I think it's his more American style rather than Brit or German. All right, you guys all hear it? All right, hold on. It's going to go into the music in just a second.
Yeah, turn it up a little.
Žodžiai neturi prasmės, jei tu jos tari tik šiaip sau. Niekada nieks tavęs nesupras, jei bijosi ištart tai, ką nori. Ar tai vienintelis kelias, ar juo verta eit, ar vardan to mes gyvenam? Hei, 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 mums reikia pakeisti šį pasaulį, jau laikas seniai, todėl kad tiesa yra apgaulė, blogiausi draugai. Darbas, kurį tu turi.
I really liked it. I'm an 80s guy as well. And I have no idea what the lyrics were about, but I was definitely getting into it. I could emotionally connected to it.
The song is called Hey, 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 Hey.
You know, I caught those
That's
lyrics.
the one part I understood.
That's the main message, you know.
When I was first listening, I thought, is
It's
he singing in
universal.
Spanish? And then he starts, you said some things that sounded more like Russian. And so I know it wasn't either one, but anyway.
Lithuanian.
Yeah, I know it's
well, we have
Lithuanian.
this. We have this very unique language that is one of the few still living and oldest languages in the world. Is about like 4,000 years old, Lithuanian language. So it's very old.
It has
usually
origins in Sanskrit, doesn't it?
Yeah, usually people who study Sanskrit, they come to Lithuania and they study Lithuanian because it's very, very similar.
So what is the message? It sounded, almost every chord was a minor chord with a 6 on it. And so it was kind of spooky sounding overall. So what was the story?
Lyrics are, you have a work and you want to, burn it down. You do things, but you don't like them. You do something that you don't like. And then there's a main question. Is this the only way you want to live? Maybe there's something else you want to try. Just probably songs like that.
Nice. It's like most people who work in a position they don't like.
Yeah, for people who chose, or they never thought that you should do something that makes you happy,
Exactly.
Andrius, I have a question. Were you able to, did you listen to Radio Free Europe, or was that banned where you were?
It was banned, and we had Russian had this special machines that would play white noise into the air, and that would block all the radio stations that could come from Western Europe. So, but there was like, it's called like a radio reflection, that the radio signal reflects from, I don't know, from clouds or from atmosphere, for certain part of atmosphere, and it kind of passed through. So we were able to listen sometimes to the, Radio Luxembourg or some BBC, maybe at night, maybe late at night, some Polish radio. They play more like Western music, even if they were a socialist state, but they had this maybe more freedom at the radio. So we got this. We knew all the popular stuff, even if we were behind the curtain, because there was there were people who were going abroad, still traveling, like my father, he was a scientist. He would once or twice a year he would go to Germany, to meet his colleagues, and I would make him a list of the records that he should bring me, from Germany, and all the people would do that. And I remember every day going to school, I would carry a few vinyl records with me, and we would exchange them with my friends. And then I'm back home, and I'm recording it on reel-to-reel tape or on cassette, and making my own, compilations. So we and also every Sunday there's this forest. Actually, I lived not so far from that place. There's this park and this little forest where on Sunday you would find 100 people with the bags full of vinyl LPs, and you could find anything there. Like you could there was like a black market for music or something. Then you could exchange LPs. You can sell. You can buy them. And if you can't find something that you want to find, there would be this guy that would write it down, and he would say, like, "Come here next week. I'll get this record for you," and
Right.
and you would get it. So that was a very different way how we got how we found the music that we like.
Yeah, it's much different than how we did it in America. Making mixtapes is much different process.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I can imagine
bootlegging
that.
here took on a different form. It'd be like, hooking up to your radio and then to your recorder. You'd be going into the woods and bootlegging that.
Well,
There's always
maybe,
a workaround.
What's that,
maybe you
Andrius?
can still experience that with all the censorship with all the censorship
Yeah,
that we're
right.
talking about.
Sadly,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
You will
All
have to do a special secret gatherings, in the mountains, and exchange vinyl records
Yeah.
or USB sticks,
Yeah, we always had to do that with ours because no one on the radio wanted to play it. Hey, I got a question for you. Or a lot of guys, you don't know this, you can't look it up, but it's something about Andrius that you don't know, and probably Andrius doesn't know it about himself. But he takes every opportunity. Somebody says, "Hey, let's do this," he'll give it a try. Like, he's here, he always shows up, no matter what it is. But he does something else that's different, which I think makes a professional, and you never know what he's gonna do. For instance, like, I'd be at my flat in Lithuania, and he'd show up, and I'm like, "Oh, what are you doing today?" He's like, "Oh, I'm going to film a video." I'm like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "You want to go?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go." And he's like, "No, do you want to be in it?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not in your band. I'm not in your album." He's like, "No, that doesn't matter. Sure, let me go ahead and shower up and shave." He's like, "No, it's not that kind of video." I'm like, "What is it?" He says, "Better look." So I'm going to show you that video.
So you were in a video with him?
Yeah, I just won.
Nice.
Nice.
Cool.
This is me waking up in the morning before coffee.
We can
No.
see young Jeff.
But it's a good song, actually. I like it.
Aš toks vienišas jaunas jūreivis, mindau svetimo uosto gatves, ieškau knaipės, kur gaučiau išgerti, nes niekad nieks nemylėjo manęs, nes niekad nieks nemylėjo manęs. Aš rūkau tik tai stiprią taboką, nesvarbu man prie ko tai prives, mano laimė man sukelia juoką, nes niekad nieks nemylėjo manęs, nes niekad nieks nemylėjo manęs. Štai tos
Here's my
durys,
cameo.
kur dainuoja ir daužo taures, aš taip pat su visais jas daužysiu, nes niekad nieks nemylėjo manęs, nes niekad nieks nemylėjo manęs. Įeinu tas duris atidaręs ir nužvelgęs visas merginas, atsisėdu į kampą prie stalo, nes niekad nieks nemylėjo manęs, nes niekad nieks nemylėjo manęs. Kai viena tų merginų prieina, pajuntu jos aistringas rankas, dar įsipilu vyno į taurę, nes niekad nieks nemylėjo manęs, nes niekad nieks
All right.
Wonderful.
Does that translate to Sailor's Song, Andrius, or what is
Yeah,
that?
that's a story about a sailor, about a young, lonely sailor who who walks the streets of unknown city because nobody ever loved him. Then he goes to the bar and he drinks himself to death because nobody ever loved him. And he met this girl that asked him to go with her, and he gives her money in advance, and he goes with her because nobody ever loved him. And in the morning, he just sadly looking at the sails of his ship, and he goes back to the ship because nobody ever loved him.
Yeah, that line's
Wow.
repeated throughout the
That's so
song.
sad.
Yeah.
So
But now, Andrius, I hate to say this, but
Andrius, yeah.
Andrius, I'm sorry.
okay.
I hate to say this, but that is what I would have expected if you said you're going to hear from a Lithuanian band. That was closer to what I might have thought of as being
It's
stereotypical. But I
I
thought
can
it was
understand.
beautiful. I enjoyed that a lot.
It is like it's a bit ironical. Music is I use it as an irony because it sounds a bit like a Russian music.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And usually when I'll travel a lot. I've been, from Chile to North Korea. I've been like 60 something countries, and but usually the question that I get when I say I'm from Lithuania, usually people say one of the first questions they would ask, do you speak Russian there? And I say, no, our language has nothing to do with Russian. I mean, just different group of languages. And then they say, how are you close to Moscow? And this is strange cliche that is still, I think, it comes from the Cold War.
Yeah.
Because for Western people, Soviet Union seemed like that's like a one country, it's just one country. But most of them never realized that there's like many different countries that were occupied, and each of them has their own culture, their own language, their own, colors and stuff like that. So it's kind of, yeah, it's.
Well, an example would be Sweden and Finland are right next to each other, but they're completely different.
Yeah, sure.
Culturally and linguistically and everything.
Yeah, and it's like Baltic countries. It's like Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania.
Mm-hmm.
They usually, from a side, you see them. They are quite similar, but still they're very different. They're very different cultures, different languages, and this is what this like your questions kind of remind me of that. That we from a side, we assimilate with this Soviet Union and people who I have some friends who were visiting Lithuania, and they when they come to Vilnius, to the city where I live, they would say we didn't expect that. We thought we're going to see this post-Soviet gray, kind of. We have those buildings too, but when you enter the old town, it looks like any other European city. It's just all architecture, castle on the hill, all these churches and all these beautiful old streets, and this is what sometimes I realize that when people look from our side, they still see us as this post-Soviet kind of,
They really tore your country apart, but they kind of destroyed your culture almost effectively still today in the eyes of the West. It really is. I think it's going to be a long time before that.
It's a long time, and of course we are a very small country. We don't have these like resources, to spread the message. So we kind of working with each person personally, inviting like Jeff and other guys to see how it looks.
Well, I'm just a dumb American. I can't tell the difference between most of those countries either. So I'm still trying to appreciate the differences. What I just heard sounded like, I hate to say it, but it did sound like a Russian song to me.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
But I mean, I don't know the differences between, if you were to list all the African countries in the world, I couldn't tell you, what's the difference in even culture or music or anything about any of those countries. So I just, I want to learn.
They're vastly different.
I got one last song I want to play for Andrius, and I think it's this song. I'll be honest with you, I've heard almost all your albums. I didn't like this one at all at first, but now it's grown on me to become one of my favorites of all time.
Laukiau, kol filmas pakeis mane. Juoką ir ašaras ten radau, tik tavo veido nepamačiau. Visa tai tęsiasi jau senai, taip kaip ir tau aš žinau tikrai. Ieškau tavęs, jei girdi mane, gal pasirodysi ekrane. Aš kreipiuosi tiesiai į aukščiausią ministeriją. Gal gali atsiųsti žinutę mano administratoriui? Radio bangos anksti ryte.
That's very cool.
When live, I'll tell you what,
really
when
like
you get a concert, you're at a concert and that one just, the crowd goes nuts. I think that was really the thing that did it for me is live. I mean, it's good recording, but live, it's just, it takes on a different feeling.
I know
Sorry,
what
go
else.
on, guys.
It's the muff pedals. What did it for you, Jeff? Initially, you can't stand the fuzz pedals.
No, I think it was just coming out from this album right before was very different, and that came out, and it was, but
I'd like, if I could take the opportunity right now, I'm going to ask Andrius for permission to use the goggles for my band. I got a white Telecaster too. I want to steal that. May I please steal that?
Steal it.
I love it. Excellent job. Bravo.
No, like how they say, talented people copy, but genius steal.
Yeah,
Steal.
exactly.
There you go.
That was Picasso.
Picasso said that. Yeah.
Picasso, yeah, that's Picasso.
Well, tell me about that song, Andrius. I know. I mean, I understand the. I mean,
The song
it's
is,
kind of simple. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's like I went to the movie and I didn't see your face there, and I listened to the radio and I couldn't hear your voice. And what the hell are you? So and I'm like I'm shouting to the highest ministry, and could you please send me a message in mono or in stereo? That's just
Got it.
that's
Mono,
just all about it.
Arba stereo.
Right.
Jeff, when were you in Lithuania?
I've been there. I don't know how many times. 10 times, maybe 7 or 10 times.
You've been in 1992 first. That's
was
the first time.
Yes.
Wow. And why?
And then you were like in 2000. Yeah.
All right, I'll tell you why. Can I tell the story, Andrius?
Sure.
So I was in a band. We're playing bands, and we had this manager and a female manager, and she came to us one day and goes, "Hey, I'm dating this guy from Europe. He's in a band. Can we set up a show with you guys?" I said, "Sure." So introduced us to Andrius. He was extended American tour. I think it was your second one. Am I right?
I stayed in Ann Arbor for almost half a year.
Yeah, it was a long time, and
Yeah.
so I don't want to go into too much, but they were pretty bored. You guys were bored for a long time, and so me and our band, we just kind of hanging out and spiced up their day a little bit, so to speak. So then that's how we met.
I remember you were what? You were like a pizza guy.
Yeah, delivering pizza.
You were bringing us pizza and beer every day. So
yeah.
Huh. My next question is,
yeah.
how many videos have you made, and how long have you been making them?
There's a lot of I'm kind of, you know, in the 80s or 90s, videos were so important, and now it's just sometimes it's you know, you see like a lyrics video, that's it, you know, because with the internet it's all and smartphones, they'll go simple. So there's a you can find a lot of I've been doing it since 1983, so it's
wow.
Last year I celebrated 40 years on stage, so it's just it's a lot, and also, you know, I not only have like songs, I have a lot of instrumental music. I write. I wrote a couple of soundtracks for movies and for theater, and I have different, completely different project that I started. On the day when Russia invaded Ukraine, I started this project that it's called Dots on the Sun. It's completely dark, ambient project, and it, you know, I would put every week one piece of music and one video. So it's now I have like 63 pieces of music since the war started. So it was kind of expressing myself. Feelings about what's happening, because it's kind of scary that it's, you know, it's
Andrius, I have a question, Andrius. Do you, in terms of, I find it hard to find inspiration the older I get. Do you use experimenting as a form of inspiration? Is that what keeps you going? Is experimenting with different platforms, instruments, and genres? Or is there something else that you do to keep your inspiration up?
It's a very good question, because, you know, when you are like 17 or 18 or 20 years old, you are using your experience that you had since childhood. Like when you're 17, to write a song, you're using your 17 years long experience, you know, and of course when you are a young man, you are excited about many things, and because you don't understand how some things work, and then this kind of makes you, you know, discover them. You can, you know, you can find like 3 chords that excite you, even if there's 1,000 songs with that using this chord progression. For you is something like a discovery, you know. And with the age, the sense of discovery, it's kind of you know, the more you know, the less discovery you make. You know, it's kind of
you find more patterns.
You begin to understand
patterns more often.
Yeah, and then you kind of you find yourself repeating some patterns. Yeah, and this is like that. Then there's this moment when you kind of you want to get out of the frame that you kind of made for yourself, even if you were kind of feeling free expressing yourself, but expressing yourself, but you still kind of there's certain style, there's certain instruments, there's certain moves that you make. It creates your style, it's kind of your identity. And then one day you realize that this identity is kind of standing in the way of the new discoveries that you can make. And then, you know, then I went into synthesizers and loopers and some, you know, I have I don't know if I can show you. I have this wall, like all these pedals and all these loopers are there that I have in
toys.
Yeah, musical. You kind of I'm feeling like I'm passing this phase, but there was like a couple of years that I just I was trying every kind of different, toy or something that generates sound or something that turns sound, transform the sound. So it's just uh, I started to look at the music as abstract painting, especially with ambient music, and it's kind of like you just spread the color on the on the canvas,
Canvas.
and then you see some form, and then you see that there's a face, maybe, So the same with the sounds. You kind of sometimes you just record some drones and put some real world real sounds from that recorded something on the street or in the forest or whatever, and then you kind of make something out of it, and it becomes just. Then you hear that there's a melody, maybe then you can add something to it. It
Well,
just you. I just want to keep myself interested in and have this little sense of discovery in everything that I make, and then it kind of I'm back to writing the songs, and and ev- and then I make this little discoveries. Maybe are not maybe they are unnoticeable to the people who listen, but I record some like some bass line, but then for me kind of there's this little movement that for me is like a discovery, in that, and this sense of discovery kind of gives you this feeling of newness, it should feel like you're doing this for the first time. You should, and the
Yeah.
joy comes when you discover, when you
right,
discover like,
right.
hey, this chord progression is this. I can't stop playing it. I love it.
Mhm.
To someone else, it might be just regular chord progression, but for you,
Yeah.
this is you kind of discovered it. This is I guess this is the beauty of creating things.
Yeah. Now I have
Well,
two
I've
And
noticed,
questions on.
Andrew,
most
Yeah.
musicians
sorry.
are younger, and it's sad in a way, because I think of like classical musicians being older. I don't know. Whereas, especially in the 60s and 70s when I grew up, all the musicians that were worth anything were younger. And maybe that's changing a little bit now. And we need to invite all ages to participate in creating music.
Well, Greg, on that, I was going to ask him if he could speak something about younger. Is it ironic you brought that up? Because I was kind of like, I mentioned earlier about like Andrius. I mean, you have probably world's record of a number of albums for many artists. Your Wikipedia page, I don't think is updated. Really quick before I ask a question, how many albums do you have? Do you know since you began?
30 maybe, I don't know.
Wow.
I don't think there's many musicians. I mean, there's a couple I've heard that kind of
All
above
original
that.
material,
Yeah,
mostly. Wow.
yeah.
So
And Andrews, where would one find your ambient catalog?
It's
I would be
on.
interested
Yeah,
in hearing
you
that.
just go. It's on YouTube. The channel is called Dots on the Sun. It, it's
Okay,
all my. It's all my. It's like a dots on the sun.
I'll be
so
checking that out.
yeah, I
I'll
want to check
check
it
it
out
out.
too. for younger musicians, Andrius, I know you've helped a lot of younger musicians, kind of encouraging and stuff, but just my thing is, and I remember this back in the day when I was young, there were some people you play with, the clubs would call and say, hey, we got a show, and they'd be like, I gotta work. And I'm like, I know, but it's a big show. And then the club never calls us again. And I would see that those people kind of, I mean, I'm trying to kind of differentiate between mediocrity and greatness. So there's some that kind of come out, and you're doing everything a musician should do. You're going into theater. You're working on some other things now, but the difference is you always showed up. You always you're spontaneous, but you always show up. What can you say to musicians about that? Is it something you can help them with, or is it just they're that way and they're not destined for it, or is it something they can learn?
Is it even relevant these days?
I think it is. I've seen the people who do great things and succeed, in anything. They're there. They show up. They take all opportunities that come to them, and the others, like, they can't get out of this work funk, 9-to-5 job. Oh, this college thing. I'm gonna go be, I mean, look. College is great if you want to be a lawyer and you need that registration, you got to go. Does that make sense? Is there something that people can do to improve the attitude about being a musician, or is it just going to be just let the chips fall where they do?
I think, if you have a dream,
Mm-hmm.
you have to dare. You have to dare to make it true. You have to dare. You have to make a step. I don't know, make a step. It's never, there's no guarantee that you will be successful. There's no guarantee at all.
No.
There's then think if you would have like enough money so you don't have to work, what would you do?
Music.
Yeah. So
would you?
Then you should dare to do it, because there's no other. Otherwise, what's the point of living if you don't do something that you truly, deeply love? Even if you're not like most successful, or it's still you are happy when your abilities, when you give them work. I mean, you have certain abilities. You have certain qualities or gifts that you have, and you, if you don't give those gifts, those qualities that you have, if you don't give them to work on something, then you're wasting what you have inside you. It's you're doing something because you need money, you need to support your family. That's understood, but if you have like a big dream, I don't know, you should somehow still do everything to
Anders, you said it wasn't guaranteed, but there is a guarantee, and that is that if you don't try, if you don't
do
anything, you're guaranteed to fail.
Well, I have a relevant question to follow up that. What if your child and your wife ate your dreams? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No,
it happens.
Seriously, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what Andrius thinks of the music industry, and how different it is in Europe than it is or in Lithuania than it is here in the States.
Well, it depends on a country, probably. Some countries, they're like Lithuania, for example. It's a 3 million people. It is not, to survive as a musician, you have to have as big audience as possible in such a small country. So some musicians, they decide to make music that they can sell to as many people as possible, and it's not always good music. Sometimes it's just a product that was made of certain elements that then they can sell. So, and bigger countries probably have this, like, for example, like in America, you can make experimental music, and there's maybe a small percentage of audience that likes that, or they would buy a ticket to a concert. But it is still sometimes enough big big enough audience to provide you some income. And in a small country, we don't have much of like
Yeah.
this niche music genres, like like noise music, like or
Yeah.
some experimental music. There's no much of that, and this is why like smaller countries have like maybe more like pop music, and the bigger variety of genres are in the bigger countries because they can survive there. As about the business, I have no idea how it works now. It just it's when it all went on internet. There's so much choice.
Hmm.
You open the like iTunes or something, and you kind of I don't know where to start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
To discover new music. Maybe some friends tell me like, "Hey, check this album by Psychedelic First. They released something fantastic last year, and then I go, I listen, I like it, and it's just so much information. You kind of your brain just shuts down. You kind of
Yeah.
and,
It
and
is a
there are
I've
moments
noticed
when
on I've noticed on
you just
internet that
switch off. Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
some of the groups that I really, really like get almost no views at all. And then there's other ones that I'm going, how the heck did they get a billion views with that? And it just makes no sense to me at all. And I wonder what's driving it. But anyway, that sort of leads me to question for you, Anders, is are you surprised by some of your greatest successes? Would you have expected, or would you have preferred if some of the stuff that was less successful was more so, or is it everything just about what you thought it was going to be?
Uh, when we started, like, I had a feeling that we're gonna become popular in my country, because we were so different from anything else that were happening here at the time. And I don't know. I just sometimes it's just, to me it's I have this sometimes I have this feeling that like there's this door, and that door is for me, and I should go there. And it's kind of, I feel it in my gut that that's it. I have no logical explanation. Sometimes you know that you should, this is for you.
So Andres, Hamlet was a big part of your life. I mean, for a point there, Hamlet and music was like two wings of the same bird. I mean, you're going back and forth between performing and that. And I'm sorry, I didn't know that Amontas, the director, had passed away till just our last email. So I am sorry, because I
Yeah.
know over the years, I honestly I didn't know that. So I'm sorry, but how did that come about? I mean, you're just sitting at home and the phone rang one day, or could you tell
Yeah,
us a little bit about
that's
that?
it. Yeah, it was, Eimuntas Nekrošius is probably one of the biggest Lithuanian theater directors ever. He's been appreciated all over the theater world in many countries. Like, and I've been going to his performances since I was teenager. I've been going to theater, seeing his early stuff, and he was always this big theater figure in Lithuania. And yeah, one day I had a call from his manager, and she said he wants to meet you. And uh, we met at a cafe, and he said, I'm doing this production that's called Hamlet, and I want you to participate. And I was like, I thought that he wants me to write the music,
Mm-hmm.
or he wants plays one of the roles. And he said, no, 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 I want you to play Hamlet. And it was very shocking to me, because when I was when I was a kid or teenager, also I always thought that this would be nice to become an actor one day or something. We all had these dreams. But one day when I forgot about it, I got like this invitation from this director that is like, everyone wants to work with him. Like all the actors in Lithuania, only the lucky ones work with him. And I asked him just to, like, can I think about it, because I couldn't answer. It was too big for me. And then I came back home absolutely shocked, and then I realized that was on the day of my birthday, and I
Really?
thought, like, yeah, I thought this is the greatest gift I ever got for the birthday, and I have to accept it. And then I asked him, can you at least try me if I can, uh, if I'm able to put on, to to make your vision come true, And he said, okay. And then we tried for a couple of weeks, just different things on stage. And then he said, it's gonna work. It's gonna be all right. And then we started the rehearsals that went for 9 months. He's one of those directors who work on every small detail, like, and the performance was, oh, it was almost 4 hours long, very long performance. And then after 9 months, we had the premiere in Vilnius, and then we started to travel the world. We've been to 38 countries during 17 years. So we performed over 200 Hamlets, like, from, I don't know, we've been to almost every country of Europe. To some of the countries we've been, like, to Italy. I've been so many times. I probably have seen more Italy than every average Italian. So it's just, yeah. So it was incredible journey and introduction into the world of theater. And I worked with him a couple of times more. I worked on the music of the performance that he did in Rome with Italian theater company, and then one more. Then he did another one that I wrote music to. So I was kind of, I don't know. To me it's still a miracle how he chose me, but it was this performance was big success. We got many awards in the different countries, and still there are. In Italy, you could find a book about it. It's just some incredible thing that happened to me, and it happened at the time when my band fell apart, and it was kind of, there was the last concert of my band, and a week before there was a premiere of Hamlet, so it was kind of, I went from one thing to another, and it's
Was that
like I said,
97? What year was that?
yeah, there was 97. Yeah,
97,
there was
okay.
97.
That's great. He saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself, and he knew.
Yeah,
That,
Yeah, he
That's
kind
great.
of, then I asked him why you chose me later, and he said that Hamlet, that's a character that is alone against the world. He wanted someone who doesn't move like actor, who doesn't talk like actors, to make this character even more distinguished from the other uh, characters in the play. So it was amazing. We performed at the Globe Theatre in London, the theater where Shakespeare worked himself, and then we performed at the Helsingør Castle in Denmark, where's the original place where this play happens, where this story happens. So we've been to, like, I don't know, many parts of the world, and
Can I ask a quick
that's,
question?
yeah.
So you said that you kind of described the going from your band into theater as being kind of a serendipitous thing. Here we call it, sometimes you call it flow. There's actually a term, it's a Russian author, called trance surfing. Do you feel like you're plugging into something that just where your life just kind of transurfs or flows? Or do you think these are conscious decisions you're making about your life and career?
I guess it's both, and because we something that we act and then we get a reaction, where we do something and there is, every action has a reaction. Like, so you do something and it might lead you to some other thing. And of course there's always choice. And I see it like, you enter the room with maybe three different doors where you can go next. So your choice is to choose one of those doors. Then you go to the one of them, and then you're in another room where there's other choice, and you choosing all the time. But sometimes I don't know. So if I don't know if it's like a happy accident
an external force.
Or yeah, but I'm not really. I'm not sure if there's someone who is like guiding me, It's still my choices led me to the place where I am now. That's all the choices that I made before. They led me to the place where I am now.
And then
I might
opportunity
be in
presents itself as it comes along in different ways, right?
It's learning to identify good decision making, I guess.
I would like to play it. Yeah, finish.
That's my question. I was like, can we get an example, please?
So Andrius, finish what you're saying, and then we're gonna go. I want to show a little clip of the Hamlet if we can.
Okay, I guess the real success is, sometimes there's opportunity, but you are not ready for it, and sometimes you're ready, but there's no opportunity. So, but when these two things come together, there is a success in that moment.
Yeah. That's good.
You better have your 10,000 hours of mastery when you do.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be ready all the time. So because there might be the moment when the opportunity presents itself. Yeah, that's true.
Right. Here we go. I want to say now, the first time I'd known Andrius was doing this for a couple years anyway, and I read up some reviews on what the play was like. And then I saw it in, I don't know, 2002 or 2003 in Toronto. I don't remember what year you're up there. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. There's fire, it's like very small, simple scale, but fire, ice, everything, water all over the stage. It's really
rain on stage. Yeah.
Let me show you this scene. I think it kind of captures a lot of that in one.
Tave pamiršti. Nelaimingas žmogau. Tave pamiršti. Tik lipimas tavo. Tik kiekvienas jis nesuteptas ir grynas bus. Gyvas. Knyga mano smegenų. Pragaištinga materija. Niekša. Maloniai šypsantis prakeitas niekša. Taip, ne taip. Mažiau štai mano žodžiai. Sudie ir nepamiršk manęs.
There's so many. All right, go ahead and talk about that. I'm gonna find another one because I think when you're a bad guy, you play a very good bad guy. I don't know if that's a contradiction, but
it reminded me of a Marina Abramovich piece, man.
Oh my God! No. This performance is brutal. It's very brutal. It's loud. It's brutal. It's screaming and shouting and fighting. it's for 4 hours of very intense performance.
Well, obviously, I'm used to hearing it in English, so that was the first time I've ever heard it and not in English. So that's is it Danish or is it
It's
Lithuanian?
Lithuanian.
Okay.
It's Lithuanian. Yeah,
we all the other characters are Lithuanian too.
Yeah, it's all played in Lithuanian, but always had like a subtitles.
Yeah, so in Toronto you see it in English.
Also, Hamlet is something that everybody knows.
Sure. So you get the gist
story.
of it even without knowing the words. I was curious, you said that you got picked because you're not an actor, and it's ironic because in my mind, like the world's greatest actors are Sir Laurence Olivier and Sir John Gielgud and those guys who all, were Shakespeare guys. And the 1948 Hamlet movie that Laurence Olivier made is the only Academy Award winning Shakespeare movie ever. And so I just think it's ironic because he is like the actor's actor, and here you are saying you got picked because you're not an actor. That seems backwards to me.
Yeah, that says something about the director, how unusual his decisions were, and this actually I know it worked, and because I used to see this. Usually Hamlet was played by older actors, like when they're in their 40s or 50s, someone that. But then this Eimuntas Nekrošius, his director, he said, "You cannot learn to play Hamlet. How can you learn to play it? I mean, and why there's always like 50 years old guys playing a 29 years old character?
Yeah.
Like Hamlet originally is 29. I was the same. I was exact that age when we started it. So it's just I know there's a lot of cliches about it too. A lot of of course, this is one of the probably most famous roles and most famous theater pieces, theater plays, and there's a lot of buzz around it, but. I know. I trusted that director because he would usually come with some unusual decisions.
I want to show.
I think it's brilliant that he used a non-actor, and your 9-month prep, right, with your rehearsal.
Yeah.
Were they 8-hour days? Because this has to be intense, right? I just memorizing the lines in my head is just. I'm dyslexic.
It's so much. It's so much.
That.
So
I would
much.
have to go over and over. But that's wonderful.
Let me show you one of my favorite scenes. It's very simple, but I think it's some of Andrius's best. It's when he's playing a bad guy.
Please don't hurt the audience.
No, it's very, very cool. It's very cool.
Olumas mano peržengė ribas, bet tik todėl, kad pernelyg veržli manoji meilė, prince. Veržli. Nelabai suprantu. Nelabai suprantu. Ar galėtumėt pagrot? Man štai šią švilpynę. Aš nemoku, prince. Aš prašau. Aš tikrai nemoku. Valdau. Aš net nežinau, kaip ją laikyti. Prince. Taip! Taip! Ha? Tai negali sunkiau, negu kad meluoti. Laikykite abiejomis rankomis. Paspaudykite visais 4 abiejų rankų pirštais. Pūskite ją pro burną. Antai vožtuvėlių. Ir tai prabils kuo iškalbingiausią muziką. Nagi, pūskit! Pūskit!
Aš juk apie tai neturiu jokios nuovokos. Aš negaliu išgauti jokios harmonijos, prince. Prince,
pūskit!
Prince.
Pūskit!
Prince.
Štai matot? Kokiu niekingu daiktų jūs mane laiko. Panudote grot manimi. Tarėtės, žinas kiekvieną mano vožtuvėlį. Taip! Ne. O kiek muzikos yra štai šiame mažame instrumentėlį?
Enough torture of playing a flute.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the last phrase you say there at the end there? Something music. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's no, like you cannot play this flute, but you're trying to play me, but you cannot play even this flute. You cannot play.
Got it.
That's a famous scene where Hamlet asking Polonius to play flute. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those actors too, Andrius, very, very talented. You can just see it on their faces. It's very, very good.
Quick question. So obviously, I mean, it's been 30 years since I read Hamlet. It was required reading in college. At the time, wasn't a big Shakespeare fan. I think it was Coppola redid Romeo and Juliet here in the States about 20 years ago, and it was a completely contemporary spin. Is that what I'm seeing on stage? Is it kind of like updated garb and kind of a more relevant time? Did he kind of redo that, or was he trying to stay totally true?
No, it was the main concept was that we are like, I guess during one of the first rehearsals, director said that we are not French and we're not British. We don't really understand about these ribbons and golden dress, and Lithuanian. He used all the elements of pagan culture of Lithuania. Lithuania is probably the last pagan country of Europe. We were Christian the last. Like we fought against it for 200 years, and we got tired, and then we said, okay, let's become Christians. So it's based. All these elements are like there are main elements like water, fire, wind, and what else? Fiber, and it's just all they used all these pagan elements and kind of it's kind of like a pagan Hamlet, I would say it that way.
So he took liberty so that so it's more relatable to the audience.
It's based on very like raw emotions. It's his theater was always very raw, and he made this Hamlet. It's just based. There's only like this very like straightforward, very even primitive emotions that were used for, and it kind of worked.
It was interesting. I'd like to see it all.
Yeah, I want to see it too.
I sent you guys the link in the show notes.
Okay.
You can watch the whole thing.
We don't watch everything you send us.
No, I know they don't read anything I send them.
Be careful.
What? Well, no, you really got to set some time aside. It'll be. I don't know where to find it with English subtitles. So I saw it in Toronto, and they had above the stage or something like that. That it was in English, and so but I mean, I don't know. I just I always thought. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was always stuck in the nosebleed section at musicals and theater performances. How many sincere facial expressions the actors were doing.
Theater is something that you have to see live, actually,
Yes,
because
yes.
it on film, when it's filmed, it used overacted. Because when you're on stage, when you're performing for the audience, you have to reach them with your emotion. But when the camera takes your close up, it's a bit too much, you know.
I know exactly. That's why it's not, you know, they act differently in film than on stage. So
It's why I hate listening to the opera, but I love going to it.
listening
Yes.
to it. Yeah.
I can't. I'd rather see the opera than listen to it.
Yeah, I like them both personally. All right, so there's no one in Hamlet's a very dark, you know, story anyway. No one dies from natural causes. I mean, either somebody is
That's why it's great.
Yeah,
I get the sense, though,
it's
in
really
your version of Hamlet that it seems like in the original, at least the one I'm thinking of, is it's like all these deaths are happening, but they're sort of an accident. Whereas in your case, it seems like they're more on purpose. It's like, you know, the difference between just dying accidentally or it was done on purpose. So I'd be curious to know how Ophelia died, you know. And
she drowned, but
I know that.
it's all in the performance it was made like no one was kind of responsible, just like Hamlet kills someone, but Hamlet's not responsible for that. I mean, he's just act like a child and then just something
right. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, for example, like if somebody were to
audio
to this pool, you'd kind of wonder.
You guys are making me edit. I don't want to edit anymore.
Sorry.
I've been up all week editing the last video. I don't want to do it anymore.
YouTube's gonna ban
that's an interesting turn. That's an interesting turn of the conversation.
Just drowning because it did, you know, you get the innuendo. That's all I'm saying.
I don't want to. All right, okay.
Your version that everything is sort of macabre.
It could be that the world ends in that pool too. You know?
It could be, yes. It could be the Bermuda Triangle.
Audio edit.
All right. Good grief. All right, no, that's good. Andrius, you have something really important that is another part of your life. And I know firsthand you're really good at this. But I think it started, at least the story you told me. I don't know. It may be you might go from a different area. But you won an award, and before I get to the award, you told me a story. Like I said, how do you get into this? How'd you come to this? And you told me about a guy who called your radio station when you used to work on it. You used to work at a radio station. I don't know how old were you when you got there, but it was for a handful of years.
25, 26, yeah.
There's a certain gentleman, and I don't know if you can talk about this because, you know, hopefully the gentleman's still out there and listen. But what can you? You know where I'm going with this. I'm going to hand it over to you if you don't mind.
Yeah, I had this program on the radio that was called Voices of the Night, and I used to sit at the radio station from midnight till 3 o'clock in the morning. There was there were people calling, and I would just plug their phone into the air, and they would say whatever they want to say, and I would maybe talk a little. That was 92, 94. It was the beginning of independent radio of Lithuania. So there was one night when this guy called, and he said, I'm going to talk now, and then I'm going to commit suicide. And I only knew one thing. I knew that you have to be with the person who wants to do that. You just talk as long as possible. Mostly listen to them. Do not give any advice. Just listen. Just make person let it out, you know. And we spoke, I guess, like maybe 90 minutes on air, and the telephones were ringing, and then he, you know, like everybody was at the radio station. I saw behind the studio window, I saw people like
they're saying cut it off.
They didn't know what to do, you know, how we react. But somehow I knew that we talked whatever. I just tried to ask him any question, so he just talks, and then he hung up, and I didn't know what happened to him. And then maybe in 5 weeks, he called me once again at night. He said, "Thank you for that conversation. It kind of, yeah, I'm here." And then no, a few years ago, I got a letter from him. He said, "Remember, we talked on the radio 20 years ago, so I'm still alive. I'm here." So it kind of led me to this idea that some like Lithuania has one of the biggest suicide rates in the world. We for many years we've been number one in suicide rates in the world. So this is a big topic in our country, and I remember this that I was able to help. Even not, I'm not a professional, but I knew one thing, that you have to listen, and and usually the moment when person might commit suicide, there might be a few minutes when the person is on the edge, and if you help them go through those minutes, they might change their mind. So I talked to this guy who was he was um, a head of uh, telephone line that that you can call in, like a psychological emotional help, how you call it,
Resource,
like
yeah, help resource.
yeah, like where you can, if you feel bad, if you feel if you have problems, you call, and then there's someone talks to you. So he was a chief of that. It's called Youth Line. It was mostly for young people. So I talked to him. I told him this story, that sometimes people can help each other if we educate them. If we educate them simple principles of how to help someone who shows the signs of that they want to commit a suicide. And we started this initiative that was called "Do Not Afraid to Talk." And first we made these like a postcards with simple advices that and if you use them, you might be able to just to help someone. So then like there was written something like, "Do not afraid to say out loud the word suicide," because people sometimes they just afraid to say this word, because they think if they say this word out loud, that then it will like motivate someone to commit a suicide, which is opposite. Because usually when person wants to kill themselves, they would say, I want to disappear, I want to sleep and never wake up, I want to go out, or they hide behind these more poetical words. And then you ask the person, "Are you talking about committing a suicide?" And then they start to realize what they really want to do. They want to kill themselves. And then the other advice would be like, help person to talk it out. Just, you don't have to give any advice. You're probably not able to give any advice, but help person to say it out, what their um, what's painful, where the pain comes from. Let them talk it out, and then and don't belittle their problems. Don't say something like, "It's going to be all right." It's just, you just listen. Do not try to tell. Do not to try them to talk them out of it. Just mostly listen, because uh, then because when they let it out, they feel better, and then they start to think, maybe they know the solution to their problem. And uh, and of course, then try to ask why they're still alive, what motivates them still trying to live, so they remember why they want to live. So there was this, we did this postcard with all these with sentences like that, and I was spreading them during my concerts. I had a tour that year, that was 2009. And but then we decided that we have to go to meet people. And then we were for about 6 years. We were time after time, once or twice a month, we would go to different Lithuanian cities with the biggest suicide rates, and we would make like a free entry. Anyone could come, and we would discuss this topic. So people would write the questions, and we would answer them and talk about this. So this was kind of then from this there are more same initiatives started all over the Lithuania, and now we have like a couple of places that were number one in suicide rate. They are not number one anymore. So it was.
So it's really having a
just,
significant impact then.
Good for you.
It's you know, to solve this problem, there should be like very complex decisions that should make. People should be able to get the help. They should know where to get the help. Like all the policemen or medics or paramedics or firemen. They should be educated how to deal with a person if person wants to commit the suicide. So this was so new to us.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of really. I don't know. I was just motivated probably by that guy who called me at the radio station, because it kind of made me realize that it's possible to help. So this is why we did it.
Well, you are helping people. I want to share something, guys. This is pretty impressive. So let me see if I can figure out how to do this. All you guys are in the corner. Let's see. So let me translate this to English. I don't know if I can.
I don't think you can.
I did it earlier. It's just not well.
Maybe Andrius can translate it.
Yeah, it's
I read it.
Yeah, it says that European Medical Organization presented me this award for the project that we did. So I only wished that my father was still alive, because he was a doctor. He always wanted me to be a doctor, and then after he died, this thing happened to me, and there was all his colleagues in that place, and everybody remembered him, and I thought, he would be very proud, seeing me getting this award from European Medics Organization. But well.
So you're the first non-medical, person to ever receive this award. So everyone else is like a doctor or some scholar or something.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's all the more impressive. Lithuania is not as far north as Norway and Sweden and Finland, and yet it has a higher suicide rate than those countries, which I assume, I don't know this, but I think their suicide rates are pretty high in those countries.
But yeah, and
the climate has something to do with it, but not entirely, is what I'm getting at.
Well, just talking openly about it and
hi, Andrius. Welcome back.
Oh, hi.
Welcome back. Yeah.
It's not the climate, it's
not at all.
There are many, of course, there's some cultural thing, but the ability to get help and maybe more introverted culture. Usually there's bigger suicide rate in the cultures that are introverted, where people are not expressing their emotions to the others, do not share their emotions, and because that's where emotions become suppressed, and they're trying to keep things to themselves, and why usually there's more men that commit suicide than women, because
I didn't know that.
I didn't know
that. Yeah, I did know that.
Because boys don't cry. They teach us boys don't cry. Boys don't express their emotions. This is why they have more suppressed emotions. And in Scandinavian countries, there are also very big pressure on men. And it's just like there are many reasons. It
can't be any one thing.
There are poor people who commit suicide. There are very wealthy people who commit suicide. There are lonely people. There are people who have big families. It's usually the person has the pain that they don't know how to deal with, and maybe they don't get help, or they don't ask for help, and then it's suicide is not when somebody wants to die. They just don't know how to live with the pain that they have inside, and this is where the help comes, to help you get out of this kind of loop that you are in, or loop of your emotions and all the traumas that you have.
You brought up a really
There's
interesting
something
point.
that something that wasn't expressed, something that hasn't dealt with.
You just brought up a point that I think we were talking the other day, and I brought up that I think I see that there's like at least four different types of suicide, but I'm wondering if what you just said sums up all the four. I'll kind of give it what I was thinking. It's just my idea. I have no background in this, of course, but there's the type that, they've experienced some loss, loss of job, a loved one, in any respect. Then there's some who are, they don't want to face the conviction of some crime, that, the police are, and this is, I know this has happened. I have a couple friends, personally, who have experienced it at different ends. Police are coming, knocking on their door, and they commit suicide then. And then there's other type that just drink themselves to death. They didn't do it intentionally. They didn't try. They didn't say, I want to die, but I want to drink. And then there's this other type, where it's the brain just, there's, it's like as a side effect to a drug, and I brought up medicine I was taking, but also there's LSD where somebody, may have a bad trip, and then,
audio edit,
all this terminology. But my thought is all of those do kind of come down to, it's not that they want to die, it's just they don't know how to live.
Yeah,
I never thought of it that way. So that's really neat.
I was just wondering, Andrius, if there's a connection between suicide rates and homelessness. And the reason what triggered me was what Jeff said was, a lot of times bad stuff happens, loss particularly. And I've talked to a lot of people about what causes people to become homeless. And it's often loss of family, loss of job, some kind of loss that was just catastrophic and they couldn't deal with it. And so they became homeless. And I'm just wondering if that's connected to this idea of suicide as well. Obviously, a lot of homeless people commit suicide.
The thing is, when somebody commits the suicide, usually people are asked these questions like, why a person did that? And then someone says, well, you lost a job. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, we all commit suicides when we lost a job. There is no one reason. There is no, or like his girlfriend left him. This is why, and everybody kind of accepts that. Yeah, sure, we understand now. His girlfriend left him, and he decided to kill himself. It's not that simple. Usually the mechanism is, something happened when you were a child, then something happened later, and it's it builds up until the moment when you it's just little thing happens, and this whole building falls apart. But the bricks were taken out, like Jenga is this game called Jenga.
Jenga.
We take the brick. It's a best example actually. Imagine the Jenga, and you take one brick, like someone stole his money, then the other brick, some there was some disease, there's some other brick, you take out one more brick, there's some relative died, somebody left him, and then you have this very unstable structure, which is psychological and emotional base of that person, and when there's so many things happen, it wasn't dealt with them. They all kind of there's this little thing that somebody like stole your money, and then you kind of you see that that's it all falls down, but it's because of all the things before that happened to you.
I'm just wondering if you mentioned the Jenga tower. I'm guessing that there are literally millions of people out there that are at that place. Their Jenga towers are very unstable, and something could happen in their lives that could just take a bad turn. So I'm wondering, are we reaching out? How can you measure even? But is there a program to reach out to people like that who are already on the verge? There maybe they haven't done it. I obviously haven't done it yet, but
Yeah, when you have when there is a help, when there's help available, and people know that they can call this telephone line, or they can go to the therapist. It's all probably it's all about educating people where they can get help. And because some people not only don't know where to get help, some people don't know that there's a help available for such situations. So it's educating about the help that you can get. It's one of the most important things. So when somebody's not well, feeling bad, have suicidal thoughts, they someone might remind them that maybe you should call, or you should visit a therapist, or maybe we could just talk. Sometimes simple conversation can make a miracles. It's that you have to really listen to that person. That is.
So I like that. We are going to put before this video, and if we break it up into pieces, and also the last one we were talking about this before, a little bit of a like, I don't know, what a resource hotline or something, someplace to call for anyone before we listen to it. And I think YouTube puts those up if they detect the conversations and about this sort of thing.
Yeah.
But YouTube, you had said that even mentioning the word suicide, people are afraid that's somewhere we shouldn't go, and you're saying that we should, because YouTube has a policy like you can't. They're very nervous. And I understand this. They don't want to be responsible for suicides following from shows and coming from these discussions. But you were saying that you think that maybe let's just talk about the elephant in the room. What's the problem? Is suicide, or is it we beating around the bush about it? And I kind of agree. Let's just talk about the elephant in the room. If the guy, if my friend or somebody has a problem with this, it makes no sense to talk about anything else. That's the crisis. And if I leave the room and try to blow it off or be superficial, that crisis remains in that person.
A lot of people can't afford to go to a psychiatrist.
Sometimes you cannot afford, but it's not. And sometimes person commits suicide when they get all the help possible, the possible help. They still do it. It's not a simple topic. But I can only say that we should always try. If you see someone who is suicidal, ask them, are you thinking about a suicide? Why? Tell me your story. Tell me what hurts, and then really listen. I mean, sometimes that person is far away, and you cannot talk to them, but that if something happened, then call their relatives or friends and ask them. Maybe they can contact that person and to check on them. It's all usually it's sometimes we don't pay attention, and then we realize when time has passed that we had to check on them.
Yeah, that was.
I think open dialogue and trying to destigmatize it, because it's such a controversial subject. I think just talking about it, normalizing it, will absolutely help people, because the people suppress the heck out of it. A lot of people, you have no idea that they're even sad, and then boom.
Yeah, I don't know. I found it shocking that the theme song to MASH was, "And suicide is painless, it brings on many changes, and I can take or leave it if I please." And I didn't
know those lyrics.
Yeah, wow. I found those lyrics shocking. And they played it at the beginning of every show like it was no big deal. And yet that was what the lyrics actually were. And I don't know.
Wow, I never knew that about the show.
I thought that was strange. But I guess my question to you, Andrius, is what about people who have already committed suicide? It affects everyone around them, affects their family. and people that they worked with. And is there any kind of support for people like that? I'm saying this because my son's best friend, when he was little, they weren't best friends at the time, but when they were in junior high, they do everything together. And then they kind of moved apart, as kids do. And when he was 18, his name was Kelton. He committed suicide. And so I try to support the parents. They live just a couple blocks away from here. And I don't know. I'm wondering, what can I do? I just try to be there to support him. I didn't know him that well, but they had a birthday party for him and things like that.
They're probably already in some kind of group therapy.
Probably. I mean, this is years ago now. Tommy's now 25, so that was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
It's usually, these people who are relatives and close people, friends of the one who committed suicide, most of the times that they feel isolated because everybody kind of avoids the topic. Maybe people think that this will be too painful for them to talk about, and they feel isolated and ignored, and I don't know.
There has to be a lot of tremendous guilt, even perceived, like what could I have done? So I can't even fathom that. That has to be intense. That's why I would recommend anybody that to get help with that, because I would
definitely they definitely need therapy, definitely, but also some support from their friends, from someone who's close to them also. I don't know if there's a right way, to start a conversation about it.
Yeah,
but,
I'm wondering that myself.
Yeah, how do you do it?
I know someone that I haven't brought it up.
But you can always ask how do you feel? How do you feel? That's important.
And I would be willing to say that anybody, even listening or has known someone, or it's very prevalent. And as I alluded to while you dropped off for technical reasons, Andrius, I'm a military veteran, Coast Guard, and that's a huge population in the U.S. Every 22 every hour, 22 people that are veterans commit suicide in the U.S. Even with alcoholism, some people just quit and they're fine with that. Other people absolutely need help with it. And I would assume there's many layers to suicidal thoughts as well, that it's not bucketed.
John, you and Andrius have something in common. One day if I may, you just never went to alcohol again, never took another drink, both of you, I think. Is that, am I bringing it up? I can edit out if you don't want to go there.
Yeah, I don't
both
mind.
You guys just stopped on your own, you just for no reason, or maybe there's a reason, but just like, no, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't know.
Yeah, I was 41 and I just put in my mind that it was boring and predictable. I knew it wasn't healthy, so I made the decision to stop. And I did quite a bit of drinking in the past, but I wanted longevity and quality of life for the immediate and long term.
That was for me. It's 30 years ago. I was 26 at the time. I just thought I don't like myself being drunk. I like myself being sober, and the best work that I ever done was sober, with sober mind. And then I decided I just don't need it. And I wasn't like a big drinker. There were some moments, of course, but I started to use alcohol quite late, and I probably didn't get used to it too much, so it was maybe easier for me to quit. Statistically, there's a very big percentage of that alcohol was involved when person committed a suicide, even if person is not alcoholic, but even if not regular user, but there's, in most cases, there is alcohol involved. person got
That
a
makes
drink, had a drink.
absolutely
That
makes
Person
sense
had a
because
drink before doing it.
the drug alcohol is a depressant, right?
Yes,
So
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes you feel
naturally,
even more.
Yeah, and it kind of, strengthens your emotions. And if the emotions are negative, it kind of they just grow, with alcohol.
Yeah. I don't know, John, maybe you know more about this with the veterans too. But I definitely know this with a couple people who, I don't know, they had something bad with their childhood, really bad, and they're just like, I'm drinking so that I don't need to think. And it goes on and on and on, but that depression, that memory is wanting to, I don't know, that you can't ignore that hole in the Jenga tower. It's wanting to fall over, and you're drinking, you're just chipping away at it more, and so, and then you're sober, and the person I'm speaking with, I'm not going to bring up names. They wake up in the morning, they're sober, and crap, I had that dream again. Grab the beer, and they're grabbing it in the morning, and then they're grabbing it in the afternoon, and before you know it, it's all day long. And then even if they're not intentionally trying to take their own life, they're taking it slowly with the alcohol, and the end result is the same. So, but I don't know how. I mean, I don't know I don't really have any solution. I'm just kind of talking, you know what I mean? But it seems like that these things affect all of those around you. It's like when one Jenga tower is about ready to fall, it knocks over some chips out of somebody else. Because then now my loved one has, because I was thinking about what you're saying, so I'm kind of thinking about it, is, my son, and he's not well. And at the time, I knew my friend wasn't doing well, but I got to choose. I can only be in two places. And yes, he's just down the street. And the time when finally his brother called me, it was a month. I didn't realize it was a month since I've been there to visit him.
I have never had suicidal thoughts, so I have no idea, nor can I fathom, but I can empathize. But I can't even put myself in those shoes. I do know there has to be profound pain. There has to be some, because this is a huge undergoing to even think it, let alone do it. But that's just why it's a taboo subject.
Yeah.
But I do think the key is just let's try to make it not taboo. If you think somebody's in it, just talk, and just don't give advice. You're not qualified, but just merely talking through it, as Andrius did that person on the radio many years ago, I think is a healthy way to approach it.
Yeah.
Do you have?
we usually we know to cure something, we have to know about it.
Yeah.
Like we know everything almost. You can find all the information about the flu, for example, and there's ways to cure it, So the same as the suicide. The more we know about it, what kind of mechanism is, then we can point the ways to also to get help. The more educated we are about it.
Yeah, you can do everything right, advice-wise, or with the flu, and still get the flu. So in some cases, no matter what you do, you get the flu. Same thing, probably with suicide. There's people they've done everything possible.
Yeah.
Go on, Andrius. I want to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, but you should still try.
100%.
Even if sometimes might not work, but it's up to you to try it.
Do you have an online resource? This initiative, is this still going? I mean, do you have something somewhere?
Let me see.
And Jeff, there's definitely a VA resource that if you Google it, they'll have a hotline, and these are for anybody can call it, that even if you're not registered in the Veterans Association
All right, go ahead
Administration.
and send that to me, and we'll make sure that it's over the top of the video, overlaid over this section. All right, let's do that post. All right.
Will do.
We're close to wrapping up, but Andrius, I want to know what you're working on. You're speaking about something about New York. Can you talk about it, or you want to wait to hold off and talk?
I'm gonna have a short visit to New York next week, so I'm just to meet some people. But I'm working on the concerts. I'm going to make some concerts this year. This time I'm performing alone, just with my guitar and maybe some backing tracks or some drum machine or something. And because I had a very big concerts last year and a few years ago with a symphony orchestra.
Yeah, I saw a video of that. Go and talk. I'm gonna see if I can find it if I can. Go ahead.
Yeah. I had I re-recorded my old album with symphony orchestra, and we did it at Abbey Road Studios in 2018.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice. That was one of the, I don't know. Also, some of those amazing things that sometimes I think why they happen to me. But I spent 5 days in Abbey Road at Studio One, at the biggest one. We were recording with 40-piece orchestra the whole album. Then we did big shows, and now I'm kind of do opposite. I was with the orchestra. Now I want to be like alone on stage, just as a singer songwriter.
So were you
gonna
barefoot?
have tour dates?
Sorry?
Were you barefoot at Abbey Road?
All right, John, go ahead first.
Oh, no.
Oh, Andrius, I was just asking if you're going to have tour dates with your solo act, or you're not there yet.
Not yet. I'm playing in London in March 9. You can come. You're invited. I'll put you on the list.
I would love to. Come to Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay.
I'll definitely.
Hey, Greg, you had
That's
I
near
might
LA.
might come to US maybe in the fall, because United States, I sing in Lithuanian, so I mostly sing for Lithuanian audiences, and the biggest Lithuanian community outside Lithuania is in Chicago. So Chicago is I visit Chicago many times.
Why is that? Why does Chicago have a big Lithuanian population?
It's because the Michigan and Illinois, it's just they kind of look like Lithuania. It's kind of the same. You're gonna see the same kind of forest,
trees.
and
we got a lot of Norwegians and Swedes in Minnesota, so
it's probably
and
similar.
And the weather is very similar. Hot summer and cold winter. It's just it's something, I don't know. Probably the first Lithuanian refugees they went to Chicago. Because there was they had like a jobs there. There's the biggest Lithuanian and Polish communities. Probably Chicago has the biggest those.
So you're not coming to Tallahassee anytime soon, then? Probably.
Well, it depends. It depends.
But you did LA a couple. Didn't you go out there once? But not.
Yeah, I've been a couple of times to LA, and last year I was in Vancouver, Canada, and British Columbia. And
nice.
Yeah.
So how much of your life do you spend away from home?
It depends, on the. When I was involved in theater, I would go then come back, see my kids, pack the suitcase and go again somewhere. It just was going back and forth. Now I'm probably spend more time at home, but still I have like maybe 10 journeys outside Lithuania every year, at least 10.
Nice.
I got that video. All right. Of you.
I don't know where we're at in the schedule, but I think
Greg,
I just want to say I'm impressed with everything I've learned about you today, Anders, and I hope you'll continue doing the same things that you're doing. You're a real asset to the world.
I have nothing else to do, so I will.
He's always got something else to do. Here's the Abbey Road.
Geležinė širdie, tu tikrai ilgai tolimų žvaigždžių dulkes ragavai. Tu gyvenai kažkur už debesų, į tave tai labai panašu. Tu nežiūrėjai atgal, tik pirmyn, netikėjai, kad grįši žemyn. sidabriniai sparnai, kuriuos pirkai, pakėlė tave per aukštai. Ir buvo jau per vėlu, kai supratai, tau neskirta gyventi lengvai.
Yeah, so I have nothing else to do. You're always doing something else.
Good for you.
You know, I'd like, Andrius, I'd like to say it was wonderful meeting you, wonderful listening to the music, and hearing about you. And Jeff has talked fondly about you for many years, so it's great seeing your face, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.